Sometime before dawn broke over the Cascade Mountains, Maya Foster felt her life splitting quietly between the world she knew and the one she never saw coming. She was standing in the rain-streaked silence of her cramped Oregon apartment, watching droplets race each other down the windowpane while coffee hissed behind her. She had bills she couldn't pay, a daughter she protected fiercely, and a future that felt held together by thin threads of routine. Then came the call. Her great uncle Victor Holloway, the man her family had dismissed as a mad wanderer, had died, leaving her something. She didn't understand why a reclusive architect who hadn't spoken to the family in decades would name her in his will, but she didn't have the luxury of ignoring miracles, even strange ones. When she and 8-year-old Riley drove up the mountain road to the inheritance, they found a towering, weather-worn treehouse clinging to an ancient Douglas fir like a forgotten dream. The boards creaked, the air smelled of moss and thyme, and nothing about it made sense, until Maya found the trapdoor hidden beneath the wooden floor. One push, one breath, one trembling climb into darkness. What waited beneath wasn't a basement. It was a vault, an impossible, cavernous world of paintings, sculptures, manuscripts, and artifacts worth more than she could fathom. And on the first page of the ledger, in Victor's shaking hand, she saw it. Estimated value, $260 million. I kept them safe. Now it's your turn. Her pulse thundered, her reality tilted. And in that moment, Maya knew she hadn't inherited a home. She de-inherited a secret that powerful people might kill to reclaim. The vault stretched deeper than any underground room should, a labyrinth carved in absolute secrecy beneath the forest floor. Maya walked through it like someone drifting through a dream she couldn't wake from, her flashlight brushing across gold leaf, Renaissance brushstrokes, ancient icons, delicate pottery. A Caravaggio hung impossibly on the north wall, its shadows alive with history. A Vermeer rested nearby, so breathtaking she felt her throat tighten. Victor had documented everything with meticulous clarity. Rescued pieces from demolished churches, legally purchased works the world believed destroyed, treasures pulled quietly from the brink of black market disappearance. He had replaced originals with master-crafted replicas, ensuring the world never realized what had vanished. It wasn't theft. It was preservation, radical, costly, and done alone. Above Maya's head, Riley slept unaware, dreaming innocent dreams while an entire fortune hummed in the soil beneath her. But beauty isn't just valuable, it's hunted. And it didn't take long for the hunters to arrive. The first were two men in an SUV, their polite smiles sharpened with intent. They asked about Victor, about art pieces, about unfinished business. They hinted at items missing from circulation. They implied danger in refusing them. Maya held her ground, but she felt their eyes lingering. When they left, slow and deliberate, she knew she'd just gained enemies. Soon after, whispers in town confirmed it. Strangers had been asking questions for weeks. Victor's secret was leaking, and people with power, money, and motives were circling. Alone on the treehouse deck that night, listening to the wind claw through the branches, Maya made a decision. She wouldn't sell. She wouldn't run. She would protect what Victor died protecting, even if the cost terrified her. Help came from places Maya never expected. Ridgemont, the quiet mountain town Victor had visited only rarely, rallied behind her like a rising tide. Mrs. Chen at the general store delivered groceries and refused payment. Tommy, the mechanic, changed her oil without being asked. The waitress Sophie organized a meal train, families driving up the mountain each night with casseroles and warm messages. Don't give up. You're doing the right thing. The high school art teacher brought students to protest in support of preserving cultural heritage. For someone who'd spent her adult life believing she had to survive alone, the sudden embrace of community left Maya breathless. But kindness didn't stop the storm brewing beyond the tree line. 6 weeks after her discovery, federal agents from the Department of Justice arrived, briefcases full of authority, questions sharp enough to cut. In the vault, Maya faced them with Catherine, the lawyer who had taken up her cause, answering everything with Victor's meticulous records. Yes, he commissioned replicas. Yes, museums unknowingly displayed them. Yes, originals were removed, but every acquisition was legal, documented, defensible. After 3 relentless days, Agent Rodriguez delivered her verdict. Victor existed in a legal gray zone, but his intentions were clear: preservation, not profit. The government wouldn't seize the collection. Relief washed over Maya so strongly she nearly collapsed, but the agent's warning lingered. This isn't over. Powerful people don't let go easily. And they were right. Within a week, a consortium of wealthy collectors filed lawsuits claiming fraud, demanding millions in damages and the return of pieces they believed rightfully theirs. The legal war had begun, and Maya stood at the center of a battlefield she never asked to enter. The courtroom became Maya's new terrain, a place where old wood floors echoed like distant thunder, and every day felt like walking into a storm without armor. She wore her single thrift store black dress, shoes that pinched her toes, and the weight of a legacy she barely understood. Catherine fought like a lioness beside her, unyielding, brilliant, fearless. Marcus authenticated every piece with scholarly rigor, dismantling the collectors' claims one by one. And then came the turning point. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a revered art historian from Madrid, flew to Oregon at her own expense. When she entered the vault and saw the Caravaggio, she wept openly, whispering that she'd studied the painting her entire life and believed it destroyed. Her press conference ignited a firestorm. She called Victor a savior of lost art, condemned museums for their failures, and shamed private collectors for hoarding beauty. Her voice went viral. Historians worldwide echoed her. Lawsuits quietly evaporated. The narrative shifted, and for the first time, Maya felt the tide turning in their favor. But victory came with exhaustion. The fight had drained her, hollowed her out, made nights longer and mornings heavier. Still, when she walked into the vault alone after a long hearing and saw the painting of the mother and child glowing softly in the artificial light, she understood. This wasn't about money. It wasn't even about ownership. It was about protecting what was nearly lost forever, what Victor had dedicated 50 silent years to preserving. And she whispered into the quiet, "I understand now. I won't let your work die." Freedom came not with calm, but with momentum. Once the lawsuits dissolved, the story of the ghost curator, a man who silently preserved beauty in a world that didn't care, caught the world's imagination. Donations poured in. A crowdfunding campaign launched by Alicia crossed $100,000 in its first weeks. Volunteers arrived offering to catalog, restore, research, teach. Maya, once a dishwasher clawing through double shifts, now sat beside scholars, architects, and historians building plans for something Victor never dared attempt: a museum dedicated to truth, his truth. She transformed the mountain property into a cultural sanctuary, a living testament to resilience and vision. Tourists arrived. Students studied the brushwork of masters long thought gone. Veterans broke down before sculptures they'd believed destroyed in war. Artists stood in front of Vermeer's light and cried because they never thought they'd see such mastery in person. The town of Ridgemont swelled with renewed life. Restaurants thrived, inns reopened, small businesses blossomed. For the first time in decades, pride replaced silence in community meetings. People didn't just support the center, they claimed it. Maya watched Riley grow in ways she'd never imagined possible. Her daughter learned restoration techniques, guided tour with fearless enthusiasm, and talked about preserving history like it was an inheritance she was born to protect. Maya saw in her the same spark Victor must have seen in her as a child, the spark that believed beauty mattered, even when life was hard, even when money was scarce, even when no one else believed in it. Years passed, and the center became more than a museum. It became a movement. Scholars arrived to research. Documentarians filmed Victor's story. Students from around the world enrolled in preservation programs. The mountain forests echoed with new life as young artists sketched on the trails and historians debated restoration techniques under the old Douglas fir. Maya built the institution she once feared she was unworthy of leading. In her office, framed on the wall, hung a faded photograph David Holloway, Victor's estranged brother, gave her on opening night. It showed Victor young, standing proudly before the half-built treehouse, eyes alight with purpose. David had apologized for decades of misunderstanding, thanking Maya for honoring the vision they'd never recognized. That photograph steadied her in moments of doubt. She no longer felt like the girl who counted bills under flickering kitchen lights. She felt like someone who carried a torch passed hand to hand through generations. But with growth came responsibility. She guarded the vault fiercely, retaining its secrecy, knowing some treasures needed protection from the world's greed. And yet she shared its essence with everyone: truth, beauty, resilience. In every tour, every lecture, every restoration workshop, she reminded visitors that Victor wasn't a thief. He was a guardian, a lighthouse in the fog, and she, once overwhelmed by the weight of his legacy, now stood tall beneath it, shaping its future. The center's 10th anniversary arrived beneath a sky streaked with Pacific Northwest gold. Maya stood on the treehouse deck with Riley, now a teenager taller, stronger, full of quiet conviction. Together they looked out over the museum grounds, where families wandered the paths, where scholars debated under cedar branches, where children pressed their hands against glass cases filled with history. The vault remained locked beneath them, its heartbeat pulsing through decades. Every triumph, every hardship, every sacrifice had led them here. The town of Ridgemont thrived because of Victor's legacy, and because Maya refused to let it be twisted or sold or buried. She had changed her daughter's life, her community's life, and the life of countless visitors who found solace in rediscovered beauty. Standing beneath the glow of evening, she whispered a thank you into the wind for Victor, for the strangers who helped her, for the battles she won without knowing she could. And as lights flickered on below, she finally accepted the truth she once feared. She wasn't just protecting the collection anymore. She was expanding its meaning, turning Victor's solitary mission into a shared future. Sometime deep in the quiet of that evening, as the museum settled into its nighttime breath and the forest hummed around her, Maya realized she had built something Victor never could have imagined. A place where lost beauty lived again, where truth was protected fiercely, and where people came not to worship value but to witness humanity. She stepped back inside the treehouse, touching the wood Victor carved, feeling the echo of all he left behind. Her voice softened, not in grief but in gratitude, as she whispered, "We did it, together." And now, as this story reaches you, I hope you felt the weight of her journey, the courage it took to stand against power, and the reminder that sometimes one person can shift the fate of everything by choosing to protect what matters. If this story moved you, let me know by liking this video, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing for more stories like this one. And before you go, I want to know, where are you listening from, and what time is it right now as this story finds you?